I think it's 7 o'clock, shall we?
Sounds good.
Start with our pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I see we have a whopping big crowd tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, Tom.
I appreciate you, making sure I knew about it and all that.
Well, maybe what we'll do too is maybe we can rearrange our agenda a little bit so that we don't
Yeah,
have to be here all night, yeah. Let's get a few little businesses away. Let's review and amend and approve our agenda. So did anybody have any changes to the agenda as it stands?
I would suggest that we put Mr. McGarry right after setting the agenda.
Yes. And let's do it maybe after approving minutes too, just
Okay.
because that way we won't forget minutes.
You're right.
So we will, all right, so I hear a motion to rearrange our agenda.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Very good. So next order of business would be to review and approve our previous meeting minutes, which were the minutes of September 12th. Everybody's had a chance to look at those. I hear a motion to accept the minutes of September 12th. I don't think you were here, so you can't.
Well, you said nothing.
Oh,
Oh, wrong with it.
all right. I can hand, well, here, perfect timing. Steve, would you like to second the motion to approve the minutes of September 12th?
Who made the motion?
I did.
Brad made the motion.
Sure.
Steve seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Okay.
I think we need to get the tape going, so.
Ah, good point. We always need Steve.
Is all in favor? Or
Yes.
No abstentions?
Well, I guess maybe Doug and Paul, maybe, since they weren't at the meeting. So maybe say there were 3 in favor. Because it was all, yeah. Steve, Brad, and I all said yes. Steve, we had rearranged our agenda a little bit to put Tom up front since he's here.
Okay.
So that will be our next business is Tom's letter regarding the waterways. Has everybody seen that letter?
Yes.
I have it here if anybody needs to refresh their memory. And Brad and I have done a lot of snooping this past couple of weeks on this. But it might be, Tom, as long as you're here, we can report to you what we found so
Sure,
far.
yeah.
But maybe you'd like to sort of summarize what the issue is you see.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you really quick, well, very quickly what okay, the house originally belonged to my wife's family. I think they've owned it since the 40s or something. But anyway, when her mother passed away, the house is 64 Depot Street down here. When her mother, Gloria White, passed away, we decided to buy the house out of the estate. So we bought it, but we bought it knowing at the time there was a water problem. Here's the crux of the thing. If somebody had told me this is the way things were, I would think there was something else going on, because I can distinctly remember a time prior to whatever the work they did on the road, which roughly around 1985 or somewhere around there, where the basement, we had just a sump pump, and that very easily controlled any water that came in the basement or whatever. Well, pretty much immediately after the road work and all that was completed.
So let me just, which road work was that? 'Cause
Well, what
there's
they
a
did
ton
was
of-
they did a resurfacing and, I don't know exactly, they did something possibly, some people have told me they think a pipe got disconnected or something, I don't know.
But
anyway.
it was road crew work, it wasn't the water district work.
I don't believe it was, no. But anyway, pretty soon after that, they started really having a pretty bad water problem to the point, okay, that I think originally, my wife's mother and a friend of hers were living there, and they were, I think they had like 2 sump pumps that they put in. I don't know if it got worse after we bought, I don't really think it got worse after we bought.
When did you buy it?
Oh boy, what year did
Well,
I buy it? 2000, I was in the Army Reserves, and I think it was just, I think it was right, I was really hectic because I got informed I was getting deployed, so I think,
Oh,
you know, I had to hurry fairly quickly, so I believe it's 2004, so.
okay.
But anyway, to the point, I've got 2 huge sewage pumps that, they're 2 20-volt pumps, and what I do is, I have one running, you know, I have one that's in, there's like a sump kind of in the basin, I have it in there. About every year I pull one out, replace it with the other one, bring that one down to a place in Troy to get rebuilt or whatever. And, you know, like, right now when we're not having a lot of rain, it runs occasionally, but quite honestly, when we have rain or we have, you know, runoff and all that, that pump will be running almost constantly.
Will it run even when there's rains like what we had this last week?
It'll say run, shut off for maybe 20, 30 seconds, then run again, you know. And I also have a small sump pump in there as an auxiliary, just in, you know, the chance God forbid something happens. And historically, I've had times when, you know, a few years ago we had the hurricane or
Yeah,
whatever.
power outage, what happens then?
Yeah, well, you know, we get water in the basement. I have a generator, but
Yeah, but you have to be here to start that.
yeah. Well, I used to have tenants, and quite honestly, we're done with tenants. Because, you know, we got some problems with them.
It's hard.
And we're trying to fix the house up and get it ready. But I've called everybody. I mean, I've called like let's see, Army Corps of Engineers. I even called and I can't recall the name of the company, but I called the company that actually did the work. And the guy was aware of the complaints and all that, and he assured me they had gone through everything. You know, and they were sure.
The guy who did the work on what?
It was an engineering company, and I should have brought the name with him.
And was that did the work in 1985? Does it
Yes,
go back to there?
yeah.
And it was an engineering company? Because that's odd. For
Or at least it was the engineering company that maybe was involved with it or whatever, you know,
Huh.
but it was.
Oh,
But, you know, I also talked to the town of Mount Tabor about it,
Yeah.
of course, and all. I've talked to even the elected, well, no, I haven't, I've written a couple letters to your local state representatives, of course, I don't know if it's because I don't live here or what, but I never heard back from any of them.
oh,
And then I've contacted, there was some water regulatory thing in Rutland.
Yeah.
And I got an email from them, and they assured me they were gonna look into it, and they wanted me to call. And I called them 100 times probably, and never heard anything from them. So, it's not just me either, the fellow next door, we have Griffith, he has a problem, it's not as bad as mine, but, you know, I think the soil's pretty much sand, so he drains his water, I'm sure it perks down into my basement.
oh, so
Yeah.
he's elevation wise, he's above you, so.
Right, and,
So, yeah.
you know, I think even the people running up the hill have a much lesser problem than we do. And I've thought about it, I've had people look at it, you know, see if it would help to seal the bay or any of that stuff, and it's really not an option, because,
Too much
you
water.
know, you might have disruption of the floor, and of course, it's not
Yeah.
good for the foundation and all.
Yeah.
Hate to say, I even have talked to a lawyer to see if there was any legal basis, and of course, basically, they've told me that probably the statute of limitations have expired, because it's been so long since this has all happened, and, you know, so it all occurred.
Well, so I can share with you, and Brad can help with this, because since we saw your letter, we have been combing through records. And that has been facilitated, easier to do, because recently everything's been redone in our offices here. And so all the maps and all the old records were in one place. And Brad spent a lot of time with the deeds and going back to look to see. And we also went out, you know, on the ground and, you know, took a look at some things. And as near as we can see, the challenge that we're up against is that we haven't been able to find any concrete records of what was done. So
Yeah.
I'm really surprised that you found the name of an engineering firm in
I
1985.
could certainly find it again, I'm sure I could find it again.
If you could do that, that could be helpful. Did you come across anything like that when, I didn't
Too
either.
bad, when you get Steve to come out, because Steve worked for the town at that time, so he could have told us everything went on down there.
Stevie Pierce did.
Oh, the only other thing is too, and I don't know if,
So was it a town project or a state project?
see, I don't even know, cause
Yeah,
you know, at the time, we didn't own the property at the time, so I would, you know, we don't live up here or
Right.
anything, so. The only thing I know is my wife's cousin, Albert Cosby, and again, I don't know, but people have told me different things, they think, you know, theories.
Sure, I know, that's what we've learned, because everybody has a theory.
But over the other, on Depot Street, almost right up by where the flag is, but, you know, on the side where the church is, and I actually have seen this though too once, so he thinks there's a pipe that was maybe not connected or something. And one time I noticed when there was a lot of rain, if you go over there, you could actually see some water coming up through the ground a little
Yeah.
bit, but.
That's what Brad and I went to take a look at. When we couldn't find records, we went to look and I'll show people this.
Have you got eavesdrops on your house?
Come on now,
Do you have eavesdrops on your house?
although you're not talking gutters or whatever, you're talking. No, I don't right now, and,
That's gonna
I've,
eliminate most all your.
yeah, like, I
problems.
thought, you know, I'll tell you what, I thought I would agree that I probably should do that, except, I tell you the truth, I can distinctly remember there was a point where we had one sump pump, no problem before that, something happened.
Yeah, we had 29 inches of rain this spring, because I checked it on our rain gauge.
And we haven't had that much trouble, we haven't had really too much trouble, you know?
No, you didn't have enough trouble with all that rain this
But when we had, I'll tell you what, when we had that hurricane a few years ago, I was, down in the basement up to my knees in water. I mean, that's how high it was, you know, I mean.
Yeah, I had to.
And of course, my furnace is down there, I mean, I thought about moving everything up and even trying to fill in the basement or whatever.
Well, we, you know.
I'd rather not, but,
So Brad and I went and took a look at things, and it's kind of interesting. There's this large manhole cover right across from the Masonic
yeah, that's right.
thing. And water, clearly, was full of water when we looked. It was raining the day that we looked, not hard, but it was raining, and that was clearly full of water and flowing somewhere. You can go across the street, immediately across the street, and still see water flowing. And then we went down to a spot in front of Georgia Caribou's house where, Georgia Labatt, I'm sorry. Yeah, I miss Georgia Caribou. Excuse me. Georgia Labatt's house where the water boiled up before. And actually that's still accessible to a pipe. You can still see the pipe and we could hear water running through there. The other thing we found that was really fascinating, and you know, people recognize this. So this is the stone sluice way, and a really interesting picture is this. This goes underneath the triangle.
Oh, okay.
It's like 2 feet by 3 feet, and it was bone dry, but it goes under the triangle, and it has, you can see passageways off to the side. But, so essentially what we found is that we have no maps, no record. There's a little bit of a record that says that in 1903, do I have that right, about the sewage, the septic?
1910.
1910. That there was an agreement amongst many people who lived on Depot Street to put in a sewer at the time. Danby used to have a sewer.
Yeah, July of 1910.
And they put in sewer pipes, and the way that it worked was that somehow they accessed what was the reservoir, which is now where Tommy's Pit is. And in times of dry weather, they would use the reservoir somehow to flush out their sewage system. And it all flowed to the creek, of course, back in 1910.
Yeah, we still have parts of that in our basement, because there is a sewage pipe there, but of course we have a septic system.
Right,
so-
and everybody's off of that now. But so what we don't know is whether this could have been tied to that flushing, whether this is still drainage, it was bone dry.
And we don't know where it daylights.
And we don't know where it daylights. We believe that after it comes from that one by the Masonic Temple, that we believe that where it comes from there and down to Georgia Labatt's house, that it then runs east to Route 7 and then daylights and
Right.
runs above ground
Yeah, because
south.
I believe people on that, I haven't heard people on that side of the street have a problem, so I don't know, what the,
Right.
maybe I'm wrong, but I think I would have heard about it, so.
So we did make some calls and we found out that the Department of Transportation does have some equipment that they, if the pipe's large enough, and we think these are large enough, certainly that sluice leg's long enough, that they can send a little piece of equipment down and look around and see if they can help us find out where there might be blockages, or, because we don't even know where the pipes are.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I have no idea, I'm just going on what, the only other thing I found interesting, I have a picture of, this house in like, I don't know, 1880 or something, and it's pretty clear from the picture that the roadway is much lower back then, as you probably would expect, than it is right now, so
Yeah.
I don't know if that's got anything at all to do with it. Well, I wouldn't imagine
So
it would,
either
because
the
that would be,
roadway was lower or the houses were all
Right.
sunk.
but I wouldn't think they would have that much, because you're not talking that much water would be running off, I think. I mean, honestly, when there's a good enough storm, this sewage pump I have is, it's like this big. And even that has trouble keeping up with the water, so.
Well, and Brad found maps of an old stream. Maybe you can tell them about that.
Well, there's a survey that was done in the early 1950s for the heirs of Emma Rising Brown. And that shows a stream beside the Masonic Hall.
Oh, really?
So, there's been no stream there that I don't know any.
And the
Can
stream,
you remember a stream there?
but the stream would have gone right where this is.
Right.
So was that put in and at one point and then maybe the stream dried up? Well, we don't
Or it
know.
took an underground course, a
Right.
stream sometimes.
That might make sense, because again, the house has like a cistern, and I was told that, somebody told me the previous owner used to keep bait fish in it. But
So
anyway.
your house, a lot of the houses along there had cisterns. That's really
Right,
common.
and I've even thought about trying to drain the water out to the backyard, except there's always you're always afraid that's gonna cause somebody else
Sure.
problems or whatever. 'Cause,
Yeah.
that one time we had the storm, and I don't remember which storm it was, but I got another gas pump because there was so much water. And I hate to say it, I almost flooded Dave McClellan's
Yeah.
garage out of me. It was
Well,
that
when
much
you pump
water.
it now, your pump, where does it take it?
Well, Dave McClellan let us put a pipe over under the road there, that little road where the trailer is next to the house.
So does it go to his little pond there?
Yeah, it's like, and he's nice, and he
Yeah.
doesn't really care about it, so it's worked out well.
Right, but it's, yeah. Well, so I guess the only thing we can say is that we're looking into
Yeah,
it. We've got
I
the state
appreciate
that's
you,
gonna
you
to
know.
help. And since we are on TV, and if I hope people do watch this, if there is anybody who knows some of this history, as you said, Stevie might, and we'll definitely reach
Sure
out to
does.
him. But if there are people in town who know this history, it would be really helpful if they would come and let us know. Either talk to me or.
And I'll certainly get you that information, it may take me a couple of days to dig it out.
Yeah, I'd love to know who the engineers were, because the fact that it's an engineers make me think that it might have been a state project instead of a town project, but I don't know.
I just like to interrupt, I think
Sure.
Daniel, over on Tabor Ave, they have problems too, so I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
come to think of it too, at one time somebody was telling me, okay, where the old, that fire station used to be, they tore it down across, the guy had the art studio or whatever.
yeah,
Oh, the train station.
Well, yeah, I guess the railroad or something was doing some work on the drainage, and somebody told me they thought that might help, but I don't think it helped. It may have helped maybe very little,
Yeah.
but it didn't really do too much.
yeah, it's hard to know, I mean, Route 7 goes right across there, is that
Right.
somehow damming it? Is it because something was filled in further? We don't know, and so the only thing we can do is start to look, and without having maps of where things are, we don't even know where to dig. So the information we're hoping we might be able to get from the folks from V-Trans when they come, because we do now know we have some clear access points that they can go in and try to help us map what's there and maybe determine, if they can
Right,
find a
right.
section that's actually plugged or something. So, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I know, yeah, I mean, again, I appreciate you, because I don't know if I should say this on camera, but it seems like Mount Tabor, I mean, they more like I hate to say stonewall me, you know.
Yeah,
Maybe they weren't, maybe they were just, you know, cause I mean, I know they were aware of the problem.
yeah.
They may have very easily had, maybe
Well,
they
because
had
many
looked at
people in
it.
their own community have the problem, and they may not, so it might be something that, you know, we'll have to talk, you know, together about. I think that, did you look at records there too?
We tried to, and we couldn't find any, but the whole section on both sides of Route 7 is experiencing water problems.
Oh, okay. really?
People over on Brooklyn Road that never had water in their basements have water in their basements. When Irene came through, that was 2011.
That was, yeah, I think that was.
The Otter Creek was actually flowing south instead of north. And there's such a deposit of sand and silt in the vicinity of Otter Creek Fun Center that the creek is literally about this deep. You can walk across it and it's not even get your knees wet. So it's not flushing like it used to flush. And it's backing up and these people are all getting water.
Yeah. See, it used to be years ago, they let everybody take stuff out of the rivers, or gravel and stuff, and that
Right.
kept the rivers low. But then the state stepped in and didn't want that no more. Now, they're all just getting higher, all the water's flooding everybody.
So it occurs to me that why don't we see if Josh can come down, who's the river and the fish fellow, and maybe confer with Greg on the, because if there's a problem with drainage in the river, then we should involve him.
Because that's a
And
problem.
they did allow for that brook to be dredged out behind Crosby's. And that's, I think, what you're referring to.
Yeah, I think
Is that the one
what
they
it
call
was,
Sucker
right.
Brook?
The train station. So Ken Abbott did that work back around 13 or.
That's probably about right, yeah.
And
Well, they never finished it. They only went
They
from the Brooklyn Road,
Exactly,
and they never finished that stretch to the creek,
Exactly.
which would have let the water flow.
exactly. So the water is swamping there instead
Can't
of
run
running.
where if it's getting
Yeah.
built up.
All right, well, so tomorrow I'll reach out to Josh and see who, it might be him that can help us with this, but if he can't, he'll know who can. And let's get them involved too. And so I think the first thing we have to do is find information, so let's
Right.
hope that, you know.
Again, I appreciate it. I may have been a little harsh on them too, because I really, they probably, you know, I think they did examine stuff and.
Well, they were very accommodating to me,
Right.
but there was a town clerk a number of years ago who went through and threw out tons of maps and stuff. That's unfortunate.
Right.
Yeah, so there might have been a loss of records that, you know.
Yeah.
so
You know,
we're
and I think too, in
expecting-
fairness, I mean, you know, you guys, you know, it's a small town, you guys are a small town, and, you know, not a lot of revenue, so it's like, you know, they
Well, yeah.
investigate as much as possible.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's scary when we think about, you know, what projects like this can cost, but, you know, heck, who knows, maybe we've got a perfectly good system right under the road, whatever that sluice
Well,
way
hell
is,
knows,
that's
that's it.
something else,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you should look at the bright side, you got plenty of fresh water, right, a lot of places.
That's right, I know.
Don't have that
I know.
problem,
As
so.
long as those bricks keep getting filled up with stuff, the water's.
Well, I will say that, the water up here is excellent, so.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do.
We have a lot of water in this town, it's true. Well, thanks for coming in.
No,
I
thanks
appreciate
for
it.
having me,
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Oh, yeah.
And you're welcome to stay for the meeting, we love having you.
That's okay, no, no.
Yeah.
Probably don't look
It's
at
pretty
it,
dry.
so I'll, again, thank you.
All right, thank you.
When fire, when somebody gets flooded, that's drowning in water. 3 or 4
So-
times you had to rebuild that house.
It looks like we would have a
Start over again.
Rutland Region Planning Commission report, but I'm not seeing anybody here to report to us,
Well,
so,
that's not a bad thing.
no.
It is the, no.
I'll reach out to them to see if they can come to our next meeting, because this has been 2 meetings that we haven't heard, so. So next up, we have, road business. And do you have any general things to say first, or should we jump into some particulars like the culverts?
No, we just, I believe it's the last FEMA project that we've got on Lily Hill that they're finishing up with the ditches and stuff. Getting ready to pave that short section of, which is already in the grant on Scottsville Road, and then we're gonna just continue up to the tip road to make that, so it's at least paved up through that section to the tip road, so they can sand that, or put salt and stuff on that for the winter if they need to, but, and then we'll get rid of hopefully some of them potholes on that sharp corner right there.
When they got the brook, get a lot of salt then. And the state's gonna step in on us.
Yep.
Keep putting salt in the brooks.
Yep. And, that's,
Sand's a problem too, so.
yeah,
That's the biggest problem right there, the salt.
Yeah.
and I think Lori's finishing up the roadsides. Hopefully the tractors are gonna limp through, so we can
Well,
dispose of that while it's still running.
speaking of the tractor limping through, I talked with Doug Jr. today about the process of starting to build our budget, because it is October and it's not too early to start thinking about that. And so one of the things he's doing is he's asking, the folks who work for the town to sort of say what anticipate their needs are gonna be, with the caveat, of course, that just because somebody asks doesn't mean that we can necessarily afford it, but we should start with asking the people who do the job what tools and things they need for the work. And so that makes me think is if our tractor is limping through, and if that's gonna be something we need to be thinking about, it might be something we wanna build into the budget. Or not, whether it's repairs or whatever, but, so just to be thinking about that, because we'll want to build those numbers in for next year. So Lori's doing mowing, anything else?
I think that's it. Like I said, the main thing is getting these FEMA projects so we can get reimburse the money that we're putting into the culverts and,
Right. We still do have the one big FEMA project, which is Parker Road, right? And what about the Danby Mountain culvert? When is that scheduled to be done? Was the one by Foy's old place?
well, I thought they were gonna do it this fall,
That's
but,
what I thought too, that's why I wondered.
but I almost think one of them got extended so we could go next June, I think, but I wanna say that one was supposed to have been done. And we approved, that was the one we only had the one bid on.
Right,
As far as I know, that was a go. But I
okay.
think everybody got the go on it, but I'll find out from Charlie.
Yeah, let's
Charlie
find
what
out,
happened.
yeah. Well, it may be that, once they move in, they do those things quick, they might be coming next week for all we know, but it'd be nice to know. Yeah, all right. So then the other specific thing on here was following up about our letter to Robert Vetronino, about his culvert. So you've had a chance to talk with him?
I talked with him back, mid-September. I talked with him and told him that basically, the rocks had to come out. He didn't quite understand why, but I told him, well, better than talking on the phone, Charlie and I'll go over and explain that you can't fill the ditch up with rocks and block your culvert, and his main concern was people were gonna overdrive his culvert and end up in the ditch.
I thought that was what he was worried about, yeah.
But in that case, if you look at it, his culvert's too narrow.
Right, he might need a longer culvert.
Might be a longer culvert, so like I said, without trying to discuss it over the phone, I'm hoping after next week, Charlie and I can get over there, and I got his number to, and he said he'll do what we want him to do, but he just wants to have it explained to him.
Okay. Does that sound good to everybody? All right.
There's water backing up on the uphill side of the culvert at this point.
So the longer way that could cause damage, yeah. All right, there was another place with stones in a culvert too, that one was taken care of,
That was on, backside of Colin,
and that's all set? Okay.
unless they put them back in. We popped them out, but.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. So the issue is that people seem to be piling stones right,
Trying to
in
get
the
it
mouth
out
of the
so they throw
culvert.
them in the ditch.
yeah. Okay. Next up would be to revisit our traffic ordinance update. And where we are on that. So last meeting, we talked about the need to make sure that everything in our ordinance matches with what's on the ground and what we want to be on the ground. And Paul was going to, you weren't here, so you didn't know that you were going to do this, but we talked since then. Where you were going to go around and double check with what's on the ground with what's in the ordinance. And then we also have the traffic studies back already, right?
Yep, I got them here, Easy Street and,
Brook Road.
yeah. There. No, yeah, Easy Street and, Brook Road from Fishville down.
Right. 121 miles an hour.
I figured that one out yet, but
Had to be a motorcycle.
I don't see how a motorcycle could go 121 through there. That's gotta be a typo or a mistake. How could anybody go that fast?
Can't.
don't.
I mean, if you're going,
But they do go faster than 30, I'll tell you.
well, I buy that, but 121, that,
Yeah, there's no.
I'm not there.
Anyway,
yeah, I just don't think so.
I don't either.
Yeah,
There's nothing impossible.
yeah. But we have the traffic studies done through there, so we're in a situation where any of the roads that were in question, we now have the studies to justify doing whatever we want. So we really need to have the discussion about what we want in those places.
Yeah.
And then we want to make sure that our ordinance as it's written up reflects our decisions and also
Match the
reflects,
signs.
yeah, what the signs and other things are that are on our other roads. So, I think, Paul, you said that you gotta get through your mowing season before you have time to,
Well, I talked with Charlie, I said we're gonna need to replace these 30s here that are on from Fishville down through down to 25. And we weren't sure if there was any in there. And then, I believe 2 meetings ago, we wanted the Brook Road raised to, is it still 30 on the Brook Road? I don't
it is
think
still
it's
30, I checked it out the other day, yeah,
I
it's
think
still 30.
it's 40.
Well, I'm only gonna go 35 personally, but, you know,
Well-
put it wherever you want.
Well, I called Lynn up there at 45.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to do 40 on most of it through there.
I
Well, that's the
don't
thing,
doubt that.
that's the thing, it's most of it, but
Thanks.
when you get to Fox Cobble and
Yeah, you-
around the High Bridge,
yeah,
we can't, this is the way I look at it, we can't post it, like, if we posted it, say 40, and somebody goes around the High Bridge and goes off, they're gonna say, well, it was 40, but then they're gonna say, well, we should put a 15 or 20.
or one of the yellow
Go around
suggested
the corner
speed
like
signs,
we did
yeah.
on Baker Brook, and we ran into the mess on Baker Brook. All the extra signs we had to put on the corners.
Yep, that just satisfying Annette
Well, that,
and that Cheryl Biscay there.
yeah,
Keep them happy.
but I don't want to have to add more signs. I'd rather post it at one down through, whether it be 30. And I mean, if you want it at 40, you can put it at 40, but I'm just
Well-
gonna say I'm gonna go with 35 max, because if I put I'm not gonna put my vehicle on 35 cruise
Right,
and try to make the Brook Road. But
right,
I know by Eddie Lewis's, you can get up to 45 to 50 down through there, but then the rest of the Brook Road is kinda. So, that be it, I think the main concern really is Fishville. Down to the stop sign here, is to get that
Yeah.
legally posted at 25.
well, pretty much everybody pretty regularly goes, at least knows that they go by at least 5 miles over the speed limit without
And
getting
they don't
caught. So if we
always-
post at 35, you know people are gonna be doing
Even if
40,
you're
it
on,
might even be doing
yeah, if you're on
45.
radar,
Yeah,
they give you a 10, so if it's 25,
right,
they can't even, well, they can give you a ticket, but they probably throw it out
right.
if you're doing 20,
And
34.
We haven't had the sheriff there because that's not a stretch of road that anybody's complaining about, correct?
No,
So maybe we post at 35 because that way at least gives somebody who's unfamiliar with the road the idea that they can't go zipping through and everybody else does what they're doing and so be it.
yeah, well, if we can do that, we can do 35 on our tractors,
Yeah,
so That'd be just about perfect one for us on the tractor speed.
Yeah.
You can't get us speeding then.
So Brook Road, Fishville, where else were we thinking, oh, Easy Street, what
Easy
happened with
Street.
that?
That's gonna go to 25, because right now it's legally 50
Oh.
for the state.
Oh,
Anything that's unposted, it's
Yeah.
50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
And there's
So,
no signs
and
at all on
even-
Easy Street, wow.
You know, I go up Easy Street all the time to the spring, and I've been watching, and when I'm going 25, it feels like I'm going really fast.
but,
We're on that road, yeah.
but the average speed, I believe in the report said it was 15, but
Right.
there were complaints that,
I think some of it is because of the commercial traffic going to the
horses.
horses, that
Yeah.
some of them are driving a
Because
little
they're
faster. I'm
trying to
familiar
get
with the
there,
roads.
not,
Yeah.
so the average speed for Easy Street was 15.3,
What's the high?
51.
It wasn't. I haven't been on
Well,
Easy
see, I
Street.
might go 51 up to
The
it.
lowest was 14, so that would probably me.
Probably. All right, so what are we thinking? So Easy Street 25,
20, well, it can't be any lower
Right.
because
we can't enforce it.
write a ticket.
Right.
So,
All right. Any other tricky spots that we had that we were working on to speak? All right, so then,
these are the last two, but the other ones have all been posted, but like I said, we've gotta go through and say Danby Hill from the start of Brook Road.
yeah, we've got to write it up.
Lewis's is gonna have to,
Yeah.
at 25.
Right, and we,
So that's,
yeah,
I think that's what they're looking for, so if it does go to court, they can say, well, it's right here, that from
Right.
point A to point B is 25.
so you can take a look at that ordinance and go out on the ground and sort of match the language. And if you need a hand with that, I'm happy to help, let me know.
I
But
think the main
we'll try to get that
change,
done before the next meeting.
Danby Hill's all done at 25,
Yeah.
Baker Brook's all done at 25, and posted lower per our lawsuit that we had, and I think we'll just leave them the same, it's like 15 around the corners. And Scottsville's all been posted.
Are the 15 ones, are those suggested, the yellow signs, or they,
Yeah.
Because that's not enforceable, that's just a
That's
suggestion.
just,
Safety.
yeah, safety. Right, Steve?
Right.
Okay.
It's like telling us that we need to stay right even though everybody should.
Right. I was right, I thought I was on your side, going the other way.
Anything else with the ordinance that anybody can?
Just some of the superfluous stop signs that can be either taken out or turned into yields.
You gotta get them to a yields. That's what everybody, every town around is going to yield on part near all these, where you got stop signs now.
Yeah, there are some, and I think we had stop signs, did we have the stop signs when we had the detour for the Danby Mountain Road? Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
we
But
did.
yeah, and maybe those go back to yield signs now or
Yeah.
something. So yeah, let's look at that at the
Yeah.
same time
Well,
and
then,
come back and
yeah,
make
So you can go here,
recommendations.
down to Nichols Store, there's no need to stop it 3 times. Nichols Store ain't running, nothing's on that main street. Stop going down over the hill, that's it. The other ones, just you take them stop signs the hell out.
You know,
North and south, I don't think
I'd
we
be
need
interested to see
them.
what people in the village think, only because since I don't live there, I don't
This is a
know.
speed limit, it's already 25 miles an hour, so.
And we lived up until 4 or 5 years ago without
Perfect.
them. And there was
Perfect.
never an accident,
No,
never a problem.
The only
There
accident
was a
was.
petition presented to this board by 130 people to get rid of them. No action was taken.
I say get rid of them.
When was that petition? Before my
I
time.
think when
First
Brookside
set of signs
was-
went up when Bill Gormley and them guys were on. I complained enough, they took them down, and then the petition came up that people in the village wanted them back, stop signs.
They wanted them back, so
Oh,
they
I was
were.
on-
That was a petition by like 5 or 10 people. I mean, Michael Abbott circulated a petition and brought it here with 130 signatures to get rid of that.
I think we should get rid of them.
Well, let's, so we can, what we'll do is we'll warn for the next meeting that we're gonna discuss those and to give people a chance that if they feel they can come to the meeting and talk about it. And in the meantime, if anybody has any other signs that they want Paul to consider to be changed,
Well, I got one right off the top of my head,
which one?
that one at the Four Corner store.
Yep,
That is totally in the way of everything.
yep.
And if they're gonna put a stop sign, put it across the road, even though the
Where
state
you,
says that's
didn't it
not
used to be
cool.
there?
Yeah, put it on the other side.
No, there was only one before, and that was coming
Oh,
From
yeah.
from south.
Take them other two down.
They never, as far as I know, they never had an accident up
No, never had one.
there.
My dog was killed there.
Did he stop or? did-
No, he didn't stop. He was going 70 miles an hour through the four corners
Yeah,
and
we
he
got
killed.
speed signs there now, so they can't go that fast as before.
Well, they can, but they deserve to.
Yeah, so,
Signal.
so I guess my thought about the Four Corners is just this, that we have a daycare facility right there, and people are dropping off
That's
children.
true.
And the school bus driver has told us that it's already a problem, because even with those stop signs and the school bus sign, the people are passing the school bus. And so as much as I agree, I don't want silly officious signs when we don't need them, I'm not sure that it's not a safety, because what people do, and I know from, when I was at Four Corners a lot, was that, people come through and when they go straight, they were maintaining pretty significant speeds through there if they were going straight, because they didn't have a stop sign, there was no need to stop. And it's true, I don't remember any serious accidents other than my dog being killed, but there is children and parents with cars dropping off kids and picking up kids,
Right,
and
but
young enough
that's
kids
not on
to
the
go
straight
across.
part.
No, that's off the
They're-
road beaten paths.
They're children, I mean, it's 10 feet to where they could be on this street instead of that street. I mean, I think it's a safety issue. If I was running a daycare there, I would want something to check the speed in that spot. So, I mean, we can talk to the folks at the daycare, but, I would think that would be an issue. We also have a horseback riding business that goes through there, and people on horseback that are crossing the road to get to the old stage road.
Well, then
That
that's,
business was there before the stop signs were.
Yep, it's true, but it might be, I agree.
A long time before the stop signs were put there.
and if anything, I think it should be a yield,
Yeah,
because there's very little traffic there.
You go both ways then, north and south. Stop sign coming to follow it.
Well, as a villager, I would like to say that the stop signs do help. I mean, those coal burners come down there and just tear it up now with the stop signs. So if there's nothing to impede that, it's just going to be really bad. As far as speed goes, not the safety of the intersection,
But it checks their speed.
Yeah, because the sheriff does sit there, and I don't know if they can give a ticket for not yielding, but they can for stopping, but
Yeah.
that's, like I said, I didn't want them there to start with way back, and, the one at the bottom of the hill, part of what I was concerned was sufficient enough, and they never had any cross-traffic accidents, to my knowledge, except for the 3 accidents that had brakes lost and
Went through the
coming
stop
down the
sign.
hill, so
You can't. prevent-
stop sign ain't gonna stop that.
No, just because that stop sign's there, that won't tell that truck stop.
Right.
But I do believe that as a nuisance, that sign in front of the store,
Yeah.
for keeping that intersection.
Oh, I think the sign where it is a nuisance, yes.
Yeah,
Sitting in the middle of the cement like that, it's silly. It's silly, and I don't know, yeah.
But then again, if it weren't there, people would be cutting over in front of that damn daycare to go down.
yeah,
By having it there, that keeps them away from that.
I think in that respect, it helps with the safety
Yeah.
issue.
It
I
probably,
think-
it probably
I
does
think
from
it's
that
best
respect.
there.
Because parents park on the side when they're dropping their kids
Right.
off too.
And that-
And if they cut
they're-
that corner.
They're in past the sign.
Yeah,
So if you take that sign out, people are gonna come, there's nobody there, they're gonna cut right close to the
Yeah.
store.
no,
They're
that's
gonna-
true. That's true,
well, that's why we got discussions.
yeah, exactly.
That's
All right,
good.
so let's make sure that on our agenda next time, warned for people to know, is that we'll be talking about some stop signs, and if people have some thoughts, they should come to the meeting and weigh in, or they should, send you an email or leave a note with Janice or something like that for us. Okay. All right, anything else on ordinance, or should we move on?
Move on.
How about an update on our town office renovations, which I am loving the town office renovations more and more every
I like
time I
it.
come in.
I like it.
Yeah, looks really good. And who's the artist?
Just think of the money you save though.
Someone who used to teach art.
Yeah, I kind of thought.
Okay, so the roof is in progress right now on the back of the building. They should have that finished on Monday. The foam insulation in both the crawl space and the attic is beginning tomorrow. He brought his trailer down here at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And there's been more discussion about the ramp in the front of the building. The more it's been discussed with everybody, with Janice, with the people that regulate handicap for elections and whatnot. Charlie, who plows, Tom Phillips, who has experience with concrete, and Tom Fuller, who has experience with blacktop. It's felt that the best thing to do is to make it out of blacktop
Yeah, I agree.
rather than cement. And also we have a problem here because probably 5 feet of this blacktop is tipping toward the building. So we really need to have the ramp coming off the front of the building and regrade this in the front so that the water is all running away from the building instead of part of it back.
So are you talking about regrading the dirt that's in front of the building, or are you talking about building up the blacktop that's in front of the building so that it all,
The blacktop.
blacktop, okay.
And we have to, we still have some site work that needs to be done. I don't know why we have these holes out here, but they need to be filled in. That's not a big deal.
One thing good about the blacktop, if the frost can move it, and when it goes back down. Cement,
And cement doesn't always work well when you put rock salt on it either,
No.
So
it gets shelly.
we hadn't budgeted to blacktop more of the driveway, so will we get some prices on that? Or do we know, or?
I don't know. We had budgeted $2,000 to do the cement work, and I know it's not gonna take $2,000 to do the
Oh, okay. All right. Then
to
it's-
do the ramp in that, and I also know that Mr. Fuller's been very good with.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if it's not a budget issue, that's, yeah. Yeah, does anybody see any reason not to do that?
Charlie said he'd like to see it blacktop all the way to the garage. That's gonna
Well,
get
fix
into
their pothole problem.
Yeah, would.
that's gonna probably get into a budget thing, but, we have like a huge pothole happening here where you come in. I mean,
Yeah,
we spent all this money to make the building look beautiful, why should we have it?
yeah.
And we want the water to run away from the building,
Yeah.
and so that, people
Now,
aren't
if it's
walking
running
through.
away, will that then create any problem with water down the road, the main road, Brook Road?
But we have good ditches there.
there's a bit of a start. Water does go downhill.
Has been my experience. Okay,
So,
anything else?
The only other question I had is, I've heard complaints about these chairs. I don't know if you want to get new chairs. Or how do you feel about that?
I'm very comfortable in this. Sorry, I didn't get, that's what happens when you get here early.
I'm fine with this one.
And I'm fine.
I'm over here, now we're a month, so.
I don't have a problem with them.
Okay.
I just like that old blue rolling chair.
Well,
I love that chair.
roll away.
I would have bought it from you.
Yeah,
This one firing right in.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure I have the required 5 legs on it either. Okay, so that's
Alright.
all I have on that.
All right, this is a little bit, it's not quite on the town office renovations, but just along the same lines of, working on our budget. I also did ask Doug about the, audit report and whether that has, come back, and it has, come back in its draft form, which he reviewed, and so the final form will be here probably, very shortly. He said there were no big earth-shattering, observations from it. But remember, this is an audit of 2018, which is our year that closed out. So it's not really telling us sort of where we are right now in terms of what sort of wiggle room we might have from tax sales and things like that. So Doug and I are gonna sit down next week and take a look at trying to figure that out, because my thought is that, so as we're thinking about the budget for this next year, now that we have completed renovations on this building, that we also have a town garage with some issues in terms of that OSHA has said, you know, that, I don't know if OSHA said, the union has said that there's some safety issues and things like that that we wanted to address. And I don't know what our appetite is for what we do and whatever, but it would be nice to know if we have, you know, any, you know, how much money we have, and then maybe be thinking about what our timeline is on that, what we want to do, and how much we might have to raise to tackle any of the issues that there are there. There certainly are maintenance issues with the building, if nothing else, right? Am I-
Maintenance issues everywhere, but,
Right.
they don't justify the cost of a new building.
No, I wasn't thinking of a new building, but whether it's repairs to
Yeah.
what's there.
Oh, yeah, you gotta keep it, you know, the electrical part.
Right.
I think they took care of that. That was one of the code violations.
And we had
Well,
to
there's
make the
not a
chimney.
great deal of electric in it, which is kind of a problem too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like 4 plugins.
That's what they make extension cords for.
Wow.
Yep.
Right?
But anyway, to take a look at where things are with that. So next up on our agenda was our Brock Loan Committee update. And I think we don't have much to update because after the last meeting, I emailed Tammy as our discussion was, and she was gonna put out an email to everybody to pull the committee together. But before she does that, she wants to take the information she has and ask Doug, and she sent Doug an email this week asking Doug if he will update that, and then she's gonna pull the committee together. So I suspect that the committee will be asked to meet this month at some point, this between now and our next meeting. And again, you know, what they're looking at is a plan for collecting the monies that are outstanding, and to finalize an understanding for us as to where we are with that fund and how much it is. We did find since that meeting, I think it was after that Brad, you found that in the 2013 and maybe 15 reports that there was mention of the Brock report, or the funds in those reports. So it hasn't been consistently in our town report, but it hasn't been consistently missing either. It's just that the monies were not merged with the rest of the monies, but they were tracked.
And there weren't monthly bills, statements.
Statements sent out, yeah, none of that was done, so that's what we wanted to get to talk about. So we should have more to report on that next month, and that brings us to other business.
I have 2 items. Would it be possible to move the meeting a week forward or a week backwards?
To the first week or?
I'm going to be out of state. And I know we've done that one other.
Oh, so you mean
point.
just for 1 month?
Yeah, just
Oh,
for
I'm
a
sorry.
month.
Well, I thought, did you, I thought I was asking Paul.
No.
Yeah, so you mean, all right, so let's look at the calendar. Yeah, I was like, oh, really? So you're talking about the November meeting?
The November meeting, and we went forward or backwards a week.
I think if we go, let's
I
just.
do like to participate in these meetings, and it sounds like, you know, with the traffic ordinance, I definitely like to participate.
Well, I think it's always helpful if somebody knows that they're gonna be away, because I think it's always best if we can all be here.
Yeah, we've had, well, I've had to do it a couple times, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've done it.
Well,
So,
either way, won't bother me, I guess. Where did I go? Right now.
It might be, since you've got to do all this research on stop signs and speeds and whatnot, might be, would you like to put it back a week?
So do it the 21st?
when's Thanksgiving, the 28th?
The 28th.
So,
I think the 21st would be fine.
Steve,
Doesn't matter to me.
don't matter to me either. First I know.
All right,
If I'm here, I'm here. If I'm not, well, you know I didn't make it.
just,
well, we gotta let PEGTV know, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
Right here.
or you'd be
I
sitting
think you
there
heard
for a
me.
week waiting for us.
can we do November 21st instead of November 14th?
Up to you.
Okay, perfect. Darn it, there was something that was just on my mind about. 21st. Oh, I know what I was thinking. I was thinking that November 21st for our next meeting starts to get pretty late in terms of building our budget. So it might be that we need to get together a little subcommittee in the meantime and pull together a budget meeting. And I always like it if everybody can participate on those meetings.
Yeah, well, don't we usually do the budget separately from the regular?
Yeah, we usually do it separately, so what I was thinking is maybe we could look at the calendar and see, and we don't have Doug here, but let's pick a date that maybe works for most of us, and we'll see if Doug will be able to make it. I did ask Doug if, he's put out asking people to give him input as to what their needs are, and he's also said that he believes that he has Dick Smith's spreadsheet, which shows the years, and he's got a sheet that shows back, I think, 2 years, but it was helpful that what Dick would have that would show us, multiple years, so he's gonna try to pull that together, for us. But what if we looked at, so we're in October 10th now, what if we tried to do something the week of the 21st? And we have one, a solid meeting. Usually it takes us about 3 meetings to pin that down.
No, I can't make it 21st, I got, aren't you counting?
Yeah, that's Monday, but that week, what about the,
Are you just saying October 21st?
yeah, the week of the 21st, so like the 23rd, 24th, Wednesday the 23rd, or Thursday the 24th?
I think Thursday
Yeah,
the
one
24th.
of the 2 days would be, would work, but Monday's never. gonna
Yeah,
work
no,
for me.
what I meant is that week, so what if we tried for Thursday the 24th?
Okay.
And I'll check with Doug, and can
That's
we make Wednesday the 23rd the alternative if Doug can't do the 24th?
What time?
I don't know, I wouldn't mind,
Wednesdays are not good for me.
Let's
It's up to
check.
Steve, what time for Steve?
yeah. Can you get
The
there
rest of
earlier,
us,
6:30?
the rest of us, we're gonna go by you. It's on your call.
It's on my call. Well, I got here at 2 after 7 this time.
Oh, you want 2 after 7?
7's about the earliest. I can
That's the
do it.
earliest, okay, so 7 o'clock Thursday the 24th.
How about 7:05?
I'll double check with,
You can keep pushing it back later, I don't care.
I'll double check with Doug and I'll assume that that's what it is unless I send you an email.
All right, I'm not gonna put it on the calendar until we find out for sure.
Nah,
Then I
So-
have to raise it,
Shall we make a motion for these two?
if I'm not here.
I don't know that we can make it. Well,
She's got your number.
we probably should make a motion to reschedule.
So I'll make a motion to have a budget workshop on Thursday, October 24th, and to move the November regular select board meeting to Thursday, the 21st of November.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? I just say that the 24th is contingent on Doug being available because we really need him. And we should also put it out to the auditors. They should be invited to that meeting too. I don't know that they've looked at the thing. As far as I know, I'm not sure that they have, but we would certainly
Well,
want.
better check with him because
be there.
we might be shooting ourselves in the foot.
Well, we don't need them there to do it.
Oh.
It's really a courtesy to have
Oh,
them there.
okay.
So, but Doug we need.
Right.
Yeah.
So that, the only thing I so that's all I'm just adding is that, that, I'm not adding to the motion, I'm just letting folks know that that is contingent on Doug being available. So, all in favor? Great.
And the other item is the town hall. I have asked Tom Phillips while he's here to fix the slate there's only like 3 or 4
Yeah.
slates that are
Just,
missing.
yeah, 2 or 3 years.
Oh, no, we should definitely keep up with it.
Yeah.
And, I still feel that something should be done. You didn't like the idea of an auction, but some kind of a for sale, because this is a real,
It ain't costing us nothing, just for a little bit we maintain it. Keep us
But
like
you're gonna
that
have to
slate.
maintain it,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you're gonna have to paint
And
the
it's
gable
been a
ends.
town hall for, I don't know how many years, in town of Danby, because it's a building that,
so we had talked about some potential ideas and I've started to look into some of those in terms of what we might be able to acquire. So let's give that a little time, but I think you're right, we absolutely have to do the slates. No building's any good if it doesn't have a roof.
that's right. And that's got a good straight roof on it.
Oh, yeah.
That's a well-built building.
Yeah, and slates, when they're maintained yearly, it's not a problem.
And you're gonna sell it, and you're gonna sell it for nothing,
Yeah.
because nobody's gonna give nothing for it, because there's nothing, no place to park.
Yeah, I think if we can work out the
That's the
issues,
whole
it's got more value to us.
It's more value to us, and I mean, sell it for 10, 15, 20,000, somebody can put 2, 3 curtains in there and throw it for the kids. And they've got more money out there.
No, I'm not even sure we get, that's the issue, we're not even sure we get 10.
Yeah.
But let's keep looking at the others, and yes, let's go ahead
See if
and
we
do that.
can't find something we can do with it to help senior citizens or veterans or, you know,
Well, there's all kinds of,
a lot of
yes, there's possibilities.
possibilities we can do.
Yeah, first we gotta tackle that parking and that other issue, but I know we have some ideas.
Well, Billy moves the fence back, he's got 11 feet on that side of the good, and I'm sure Smoky House with couriers not to park out back on that field if we had to.
Well, we gotta make some inquiries, and that's what I've been working on, so we'll see what we can
I
do.
mean, 11 foot, you can drive anything out that side, 11 foot, and if you can't get out through there, 11 foot, you better hang it up.
I'm not sure I can in my trailer, but
Well,
let
I'm
me,
sure
let me
I
just,
45.
I bet you I could, mine.
let me just, before we, adjourn, let me just look through what Janice has given me here to make sure there's nothing that would be, Municipal Highway and Stormwater Mitigation Grant Program is now available. Applications are due on October 4th. Well, that, I think that's the one that Charlie was here late working on that time.
Yeah.
So I think they put in, so I don't think that's, that was Tom's letter. Let's see what this is. Oh, this was the certified letter that we sent to the owner of the culvert that you're planning on meeting with next week. So there's nothing on that. And this is the original, the traffic ordinance, which if you don't have a copy, you'll want a copy of that to be working from.
Yeah,
And I don't know, this says it's a copy, but that's not the whole thing.
You got one now.
There you go, perfect. Perfect, thank you. And that's all that's in the folder, so I'd be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Who motioned it?
I think we got a first and a second.
sounds good to me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.